Hey everyone, this is David Gomez with the Latino Business Speaker Bureau. I'm bringing you a speaker highlight for the Hispanic Heritage Month series, 31 by 31. Today, I am very pleased to introduce Shayla Rivera, who she has, I'm gonna let you tell your story a little more because I think that you have such a good story and you have the gift of storytelling. So would you tell us a little bit about your background?
Well, of course, David. So nice to be here with you today and everyone who's watching. First, I have to correct you. My name is Shayla May Rivera Martinez Cortez, Romero Reventos, Murphy. But that's okay. We're not going to talk about that. You know how we are. You know what? To encapsulate me in a story, I'll tell you that I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, and then my parents brought us to Texas. This is back when, I got to Texas in 1979. Yes, I'm that old. 1979, after graduating high school, and I attended Texas A&M University, where I got a degree in aerospace engineering and minor in psychology. And then I went on to work for NASA for a while, and from there I hopped on to technical sales for oil and gas products. I was selling to the big chemical plants and everything in Houston and engineering firms. And then from there, I ended up doing corporate trainings for stress management for the same companies, actually, but with a different group of psychologists down in Houston. And start doing my motivational speaking, people would say, you should come in. Then I'm like, hey, I'm trying to be lightning, idiota. So, I would but from there, I went into stand-up comedy, and I still do stand-up comedy, but now after presentations made to students at Texas A&M, I'm back. I'm a professor here in the College of Engineering, and I teach engineering ethics and run a program called Engineering X. So that's a loop until right now. Right. I don't know what's next.
Wow. No, that's very fascinating. I mean, NASA, that's awesome.
Yeah, NASA was great. Yeah, so it was a fun, if you've seen the movie Hidden Figures, it felt just like that when I was there. It was very cool.
Yeah, we actually watch that all the time with my kids. They really love that movie. They love NASA, anything NASA, basically.
Space is back. Yeah.
So you have a very special duality. You do the structure, the engineering part, and then you do the creative. We know the comedy. Mm-hmm. So I think something that is of interest to our viewers is what sparked that curiosity in you. Was that something that you had since you were younger, or what sparked your interest on either one of them or both of them?
Well, I will say that growing up in Puerto Rico, Latino people, you know how we are. We're gregarious. We like to have fun. We laugh a lot. Our music is loud. Our food is flavorful. We have fun. So maybe I had that in me. So being gregarious to me has always been natural, the way that things should be or are, right? But I think what propelled me throughout this whole journey was actually feeling really like I didn't fit anywhere, that I was like insecure, and I felt like I was an imposter. And from the early age when I was a little kid. And I think that being that uncomfortable, but not showing it all the time, I was just like, I was uncomfortable, but you wouldn't know it because I was a rebel and all that stuff. But I always wanted to understand why I couldn't feel comfortable in my own skin. And that was while I was growing up in Puerto Rico. Forget about it. When I moved to Texas, then, I even got exposed to the fact that I was a minority, and I was, I was a female, and all these different minority, diversity I had never really thought of myself that way. So that was like another big change for me. And I didn't really have a command of the English language when I moved here. I had the Puerto Rican window and stuff, but I did not. So I was really scared. And what's propelled me is this, I have this, I don't know if it's an ability or it's just a stubbornness of, I want to find peace. I want to feel comfortable in my own skin. I don't want to feel, I don't like feeling bad, and I don't like making other people feel bad. So I've always tried to listen to myself, to follow, to first hear what it is that my little voice is saying to me. You know, that takes skill. That skill takes time. And that's a creative process right there. You have to kind of like listen to yourself and then to identify that. And then I've been crazy enough to take the risk and make the changes that these things require. So maybe my son used to call me, and get ready, folks, this is a bad word. It's not a badass, right? But I never felt that way. But I was never really afraid to take a risk. So I think what propelled me was that I wasn't afraid to take a risk, and I did not make all the decisions that I had to make as soon as I graduated in my college. You know, after I graduated, I allowed myself to make decisions as I went along, and I found myself in comedy, and I found myself here. So I think, you know, I have allowed also life to go, hey, what about that direction? Okay, por ahí, let's go. Okay, you know, so yeah, I kind of have a willingness to not have to control everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's that's very interesting because, you know, like you said, control and, you know, creativity has a little bit of chaos in it. Um, so one thing that you were talking about is that feeling of you know, not belonging, and I think that a lot of younger Hispanics and younger Latinos sometimes struggle. And for example, the STEM program,
Yeah.
and we're underrepresented in the STEM program. And I mean, engineering is part of STEM. So
Mm-hmm.
how can Latinos, and basically for parents, because I had a little bit of that in my family,
Yeah.
how can Latinos support the STEM programs?
One of the things I found, I have been privileged and honored to go to a lot of schools and speak, especially to our underrepresented minorities, you know, in schools, and talk about STEM and everything. But I have to tell you, the kids are willing and they are excited and they're interested. But I think we mostly have to address the parents. I think it's a generational thing. It's a cultural thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. It just is what it is. So I always ask whenever I go to middle schools and high schools and elementary schools, if I'm making a presentation to, you know, the students, let me also make a presentation to the parents, because it's really going to be, the presentation to the students is going to be about you're writing your story. You know, you are in charge and in command. The pen needs to be in your hand, right? But I like to talk to the parents as well, because it's the same talk but in a different way, you know. uh, Pretty much we have to understand that we try to protect sometimes our kids so much that we don't want them to get hurt, so we don't want them to dream too big. That's such a Latino thing.
Yeah.
um, and it comes from love, but you know, it's misplaced. So what I do is I like to talk to, like you mentioned, the parents. The parents still are so young too. We still have a lot of life left in us. Don't give up now. I mean,
Yeah.
just because you have 3 kids doesn't mean you can't also learn something and develop, and I don't know, and just kind of grow. I think it's that you need to be a lifelong learner. I don't care what color, gender, or, you know, ethnicity you are. Lifelong learning is how you stay young. I'm 200 years old, and I don't look too bad.
But
Yeah, I think that it's just a misperception. It's a lie that's repeated over and over becomes the truth. And no, we don't belong there. Don't buy it.
So you've experienced both. You've experienced, you know, working for NASA,
Mm-hmm.
working, you know, in an engineering role. You're also, you know, going live and doing your comedy routines. So could you share with us some of the challenges and rewards of each one of them?
Wow. The challenges and rewards of each one of them. In engineering, I mean, the challenges for both of them, in my case, in my estimation, for me, have been, you know, I still, you know, the feeling of being an imposter. Uh, when I was pursuing engineering, when I was working in engineering, I was I was doing it. I mean, when I was pursuing my education, I made it. I got my degree. I went and I got hired at NASA, and I was doing okay. Nobody was firing me, but I never felt like I uh, belonged. So that was the biggest thing that got in my way, was really me, of course. That there are people out there that are kind of, you know, they don't really know how to appreciate the differences in other people. Sure, that's also a generational thing. I think we're going to see that go away soon enough, because awareness right now is
Mhm.
on the fact that we need to understand that, you know, we're just human, you know, at the bottom line is that we're just human beings. You know, we eat mofongo, some people eat barbecue. You know, well, we eat everything. But that's the thing, is like, we're human, and at the level of human, there are things that are we have in common. And the one thing that I know we have in common is that it doesn't matter what language you speak, it doesn't matter what part of the earth you're from. When people laugh, laughter sounds the same way in any language and from anyone. Think
Yeah.
about that. So laughter, and to me, joy, you know, to be able to lightening up includes laughter. And that's the language. That's the language that we have forgotten to speak with each other, you know, just bringing that kind of joy. So yeah, I got in my own way, but that was the best blessing for me, because it made me pay attention. So yeah, I mean, my challenge has always been me. Of course, I'm my friend now.
And that's something that, you know, it takes a lot of maturing to get to.
It does. It takes a lot of maturing, a lot of experiencing, a lot of really being in the moment, a lot of, oh, because life will punch you a bunch of times, you know, and it doesn't mean that people who seem to be happy all the time have not gotten knocked down.
Yeah,
So I'm fully aware of that. Yeah.
it is no cliche, you know, the know thyself, you know. It's a journey that a lot of people must take.
Right.
And
And most people never embark in. They never. It's hard work, or it's kind of weird work. We were never given the tools to get to know yourself and be okay with whatever you find.
yeah.
See, that's the thing, is to be okay with what you find. But you can do it. It can be done.
And you mentioned the importance of being a long time learner.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lifetime learner.
Lifelong learner. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you were mentioning in your journey that you've worked with some corporations in helping, um, you know, helping in self development. Can you tell
Mm-hmm.
us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that was one of the greatest transformations for me, is that period in the 80s and 90s where I was doing corporate trainings for big corporations on stress management. And it was a week-long seminar where we would take 25, 30 people and have them in a room 5 days for 8 hours every day. It was life transforming. And the way we began that seminar every time was with this phrase, and write this down, people: what you're unaware of controls you. What you become aware of, you can change. That phrase set me off on a journey that I was like, what am I unaware of? You don't know what you don't know, right?
Right.
So for me, and from that moment, it's been a process of, whenever I'm angry, upset, or whatever, in pain is what I call it. There's something I'm not aware of right now. There's some belief that I'm listening to back there that I'm not conscious of. So I think that awareness is key. Awareness is the way to getting to being comfortable in your own skin.
And so one of the questions that the leadership wanted me to ask, and I think that you're just I'm kind of skipping ahead because you're jumping into that, is what strategies have you used to succeed? But I think that you have things that you can share. So I know that a lot of our members are executives and are people that are pursuing success. What strategies do you recommend for some of that stress management? Say for top, Shayla Rivera's Kiss to Success or whatever.
The thing that I learned about stress, because, when I was doing corporate trainings, I was with a group of psychologists in Houston that were amazing. And so I was learning myself. I was, not that Puerto Ricans are stressed out. We're kind of uptight sometimes. But at that moment, it was the most beautiful process for me. I learned things like, stress actually is a choice for us. To be stressed out is a choice. Anxiety doesn't attack. All of these things. And the most important thing about stress is that it isn't, you don't want to have a life. We all need stress. Okay. I mean, when you laugh, that's stress too. I mean, there's good and bad stress and everything. But the important thing about bad stress is to recognize it, because that's the problem. We don't think we're stressed out. I'm not stressed out, right? There's an automatic stress reaction. And this is not my material, so I'm not going to give it to you, but I can tell you this, that the way you break that automatic way that you respond to stress is by doing the opposite. And the way you do that is by taking a deep breath. Because what happens when you take a deep breath, when you're being squeezed, it brings you to the moment. It anchors you. And if there's one thing I learned from those classes, was that when I'm feeling like the imposter again or whatever, I know that I've been here before. This is stress, and I'm not going to choose that. The problem when we choose to be stressed out is that usually we just damage everybody around us, and we don't want to do that. Of course you damage yourself. So if there's a tidbit to take, is to learn to breathe. You got to take a couple of deep breaths and let life happen for you instead of to you. All of these things that are happening with this pandemic right now, and all of these, the analogy of the orange juice, which I love to use, is like, what do you do? What do you get when you squeeze an orange, David? You get orange juice, right? But the question is why? Why do you get orange juice? Well, the answer is because that's what's inside the orange. So just like that, all of these moments in life that you're getting squeezed, like right now, we're all getting squeezed. We're all on timeout, we've been put on timeout.
Yep.
How are you responding? The way you're responding is what you have on the inside that you have not been looking at. So some people are just really upset, and then some people are like, let's just do it, right? So I have gotten to the place in my life where I know that I know what juice is coming out. I have always wanted peace. I want peace, all things pass. It's going to be okay. Everything brings opportunity, everything. And I just keep breathing. Sometimes you just got to surrender. Yeah. What can you do right now?
Yeah.
And find a way to laugh, have fun.
Do you find yourself material whenever you have that journey of knowing yourself? It's like, okay, so I just discovered this about myself. Can I use this?
I put it out there. You betcha. I do. I mean, that's where comedy comes from. The best comedy comes from truth. right? You don't have to make it up. And I love comedians that, make fun of themselves. And you know how we are, self-deprecating humor for Latinos is second nature. And I'm observational. I like to observe. I watch people react and respond in insane ways, like that. They're like, huh, are you stressed out? No. Oh, wow. Can you tell your face, please? Because it's hurting me. um, if you can find ways to make people break that I did that to my sister the other day. It's like she was just like, and I'm like, are you okay, are you happy? She goes, yeah. Well, would you tell your face, please? And then that made her laugh. And it's just sometimes we're not present and we just kind of go in the bad direction. And that applies to leadership, that applies to your life, personal, spiritual, intellectual. You have to be present, and it's okay to not be exceptionally perfect at every moment.
and
Those are
and
boring
that
people.
that is hard for an engineer. It's just one of
It
those
is.
you
It
have
is.
to have, it has to resist.
Structure and
Right.
predictability. Yeah.
Exactly. No, it's commendable. I think those are really good takeaways for anyone. And like you mentioned, not just a leader, but just as humans, we
Everybody.
have to let go, and there's a lot to learn. But interestingly enough, that is the hardest thing. You can work with somebody else, you can coach somebody else, and I think that a lot of the leaders do that.
Yes.
They help others, they lead, they mentor others, but what's going on inside?
Yeah. And then go home and kick the cat. Yeah. And I hear you. That is such an amazing thing to bring up, because I think that that's really important. We live in this facade life, especially for leaders and mentors and whatnot. People think that you're perfect, and they hold you. And you have to show people that you have to be authentic. You're not perfect. You have to be vulnerable. It's okay to not be perfect. And the only person, okay, David, are you
Mhm.
married?
Yes.
Okay. um, I'm sure that one of you two is trying to change the other one to make you better. Most marriages do that, right? Um, you know how hard it is to change a spouse, or to change a child, or to change a student, or to change a friend into what is better for them, right? I mean, that's almost impossible. Uh, so that's hard. Changing yourself, which is the only thing you can do. The only place that you have control is in here. Is it's nearly, it seems impossible. We don't want to look in there. I don't want to find stuff. I don't want to look at it.
Yeah.
You have to look at it. It's okay. It's who you are. And you are, if you, even if you have darkness inside of you a lot of times and you mentor people, you're balanced. You got light, you got darkness. You got to be okay with that. But we really do think that we have to be one thing.
Yeah.
And those people never really live a happy life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know you mentioned this earlier, but it's very interesting about something that you mentioned about the stress, that we think that we need to live a stressless life, but some stress is productive.
Right.
It propels us to do things and
That's
to
right.
improve,
That's right.
and not to be stressed about stressing out. That's
Right.
something uh, that we should all keep. So now let's talk. In my case, this would be something that helps me with my stress. So I'm going to ask you this question: how do you keep your Hispanic heritage alive?
I can't help it. First of all, my Hispanic heritage comes through, it just comes through. I mean, I have never wanted to fit into any particular box.
Mhm.
Um, but I do like to be respectful. I know whenever, if I'm in a proper situation that you need to be, you act that way. If you're going to go salsa dancing, well, you're going to have to sweat a little bit. The way I keep it, I definitely listen to salsa music. Something happens to my DNA that I can be exhausted. I put on some music. Olvídate, I am ready to go out and dance till 3 o'clock in the morning. The way I do, I'm connecting. I want to connect back to, there's a cellular level to which I'm Latino, and salsa music, my food, the smells of when I connect with some other person that reminds me what it used to be like. My tia in Puerto Rico que está loca, she's crazy, she's so much fun to talk to. You just call her to say how you doing, and she starts talking much like me, I guess, and she won't shut up, and you're laughing the whole time. I don't think we do enough of that. I see this COVID opportunity, time out opportunity to do that, calling the people that we don't talk to very often. So yeah, I mean, my family, my food, my music, yeah, that's how I do it.
Yeah, that's very important. And
It really is.
a lot of times, a lot of people get busy and don't have that connection back home or with our families, and that is important to our identities, because we grew up with them. We have shared stories, shared memories. So yeah, no, and so who's your favorite salsa artist?
Oh my gosh, you're gonna do that to me. I love El Gran Combo.
Okay.
So I grew up with it, but you're gonna tell me the Roberto Roena. I love Willie Colon, but I see I'm old school. But I mean, just any salsa, yeah.
So I'm taking a note of that. El Gran Combo.
Gran Combo de Puerto Rico, yes, sir.
I have not heard them, so I need to check them out.
That's like saying somebody hasn't heard of the Rolling Stones or the Beatles, but it is Puerto Rican. Yes, right.
Yeah,
it's
so
great music.
It's in my to-do list.
Good.
So I know that you're working on some new things, and would you share some of those things that you're working on right now? What's next in the horizon?
The next thing for me, which has been, oh my gosh, I've been, it's a long time coming, is to finish. There's several, I don't know how many books you have out there, but my book, just to, get that already, I have you have the content, and then it's just like, okay, but what do I do with this? It's interesting. We all have, like you say, we all have that thing that's, it's in here and we're not. So my book has been one of my challenges, and I say my book, my first book, because I feel like I have more than one in me. But I really think that there's room out there for us to have a book about, maybe we can write this one together. Folks, you're hearing this from me right now. David and I are going to write a book about Latino stories. Because it's all about a story. The thing is, we are, no matter what your gender and your race and whatever, as human, it's a story.
Yeah.
You're a story. And when you meet someone, you cross paths, you become, you connect to a certain extent. But then when you exchange your stories and you kind of share with the other, then you become entangled. And then that's quantum physics, but that's the next book, not right now. But we become entangled when we share who we are with another person.
Yeah.
The book is it.
Yeah. And if you go, to Shayla's website, you'll see mention of the book that she's working on. And in the meantime, they have access to your blog. Is that correct?
The blog is on there as well. I know also that there is an HBO half-hour special that's going to come out at the end of this year. I have not, it's just, there's so much to do.
Yeah.
And like, I need 7 minions to help me out. That's my excuse. See, that's an excuse. So you know how it is.
Yeah. And you would have thought that with COVID and all being home, you will have more time, but it
Right.
seems like we just keep getting busier and busier.
It's sure. I mean, I don't know about you, but I spend my days sitting in front of this camera right here, talking to people on Zoom, which is great. We can still connect.
Yeah.
Don't let anybody tell you that, oh, well, we're at home and now we can't. No, we can connect and we can come through and we can, reach to out to people and affect them in a good way on purpose.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. I
Now,
enjoyed myself. We're gonna have to do this more often.
yeah, absolutely. And this conversation, we're putting it together for the for Latino Business Speakers Bureau,
Mm-hmm.
and for Heritage Month. But we really appreciate your support, your contribution with this interview, and I just wish you all the success on this upcoming book, and hope to see you again soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you. It was my pleasure.